right, hey guys, Eric here, product specialist with TOA, back at you with another Sound Supply podcast. This week, we're leading into a brand new webinar that we have coming up for you guys next week, 8/26, 2 p.m. And it's really going to be targeted at the integrators and safety when they're out there installing these products. All right, so let's get into it. We have, this is going to be a short one. We have 2 quick tips. Again, guys, we have a webinar coming up next week. Make sure you guys are signed up for that. We'll make sure we have a link for you in the description. Please take a look. As you know, there are several positive signs that our industry is, beginning to stabilize, adapting with the current times, and things are starting to thaw down a little bit. Between providers and customers out there, and hints that revenue prospects may be stabilizing, even while that's all, long term in terms of revenues, getting to where we want them to be at. In the short term, sales are still declining. So, companies are using feedback. We're getting a handle on demand and scaling, and there's a lot of change going on out there. There's a ton of change. So we want to keep that in mind. In terms of integration, there's a lot of customers out there that are interested in touchless solutions. So the big concern, obviously, is integrators going onto the site and implementing these systems and finding new ways to be able to deploy these solutions for customers. So the customers currently are concerned about, spreading and safety and other means. So we want to keep that in mind. There are solutions out there for follow-up deployment in terms of integrating software, remoting into some systems, things like that. But the guys ahead of that process, aren't able to do that. They have to physically come in and get those systems up and going. All right, so we have 2 solutions for you guys leading into next week's webinar. Let's start with number 1, and that's recommending only critical employees are present for the installation. So we want to make sure that we use the least amount of guys on site when doing this. The least, the less the better, So that's both on the integration side as well as the client side. So we want to make sure that the client also on their end has the least amount of people there when the deployment is being done. So we've heard of schools installations right now where the AV company scheduled outside the school hours and made sure that no one other than the school security was present during the installations. That's a perfect example. A lot of installs went during or before school was in session. And if installations are happening during school hours, they're being conducted outside of school hours with the least amount of integrators for the job, as well as, the least amount of clientele present in the building. And that's just a simple solution that definitely should be implemented when you guys are out there. So keep that in mind. I guess at this time, we want to be thinking less is more when it comes to personnel and the clients that are there on the site. Number 2 is improving sanitation. So this one's obviously something that's been implemented not only at the site level, but also on the deployment level. So along with current CDC guidelines, we want to make sure that integrators are aware of sanitation processes. So these tools can all be found on the web. I'm sure your company has integrated certain safety solutions in terms of cleansing, pre-sanitation, post-sanitation, during operation, obviously masks, hand sanitizers, things like that. M90 mask, gloves, latex gloves. So again, touchless type solutions where you're not having direct contact with your hands, and then having backups with you. So you want to make sure that you guys are able to do this as quickly and efficiently as possible, where you're not running back and forth to your places of equipment, or you guys store your gear or your offices, because we want, these installations are labor intensive. They have to be done. So If that means scheduling additional follow-ups because you have to work around it, keep that in mind, because that might be something that adds time. You might have to schedule around people that are in the building. So make sure that you're aware of the business that you're going into, what type of business it is, obviously a school or a typical 9-to-5 business. Maybe it's retail, overnight installations for something like that, maybe a possibility. You want to think safety, 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 as well as getting the job done efficiently with the least amount of personnel as possible. Obviously, we don't want to, provide them with a job that isn't going to be complete. So we want to make sure that we understand what we're implementing, with the right personnel and the least amount of people at those locations. So, all right, guys, those are two really quick, awesome tips that you guys can apply right away. And I think, keeping these tips in the back of your mind while you're doing these jobs will lead to either new ideas, better solutions. But these go a long way, a very long way, to keep everybody safe and happy and make sure that we're containing this. And, we begin to see an uprise in not only our industry, but the world around us and our clientele as well. So with that being said, guys, once again, we do have a brand new webinar coming up next week. That's 8/26 at 2 p.m. I believe it's a Tuesday or Wednesday. Double check your calendars. Again, it's August 26th, 2 p.m. We'll have a Zoom link on the bottom of this podcast for you guys to check out. And it's going to be live on Facebook. So if you don't make the Zoom sign up, no worries. Just hop over to our Facebook page, stream it. This is going to be directed at the integrator, safety, 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 and providing the best possible work for you guys with the least amount of personnel and really focusing in at that specific installation at that current time. Okay, guys, have a great week. We'll see you next week for a new podcast and a new webinar. All right, guys, take care.